would Tabari have this sense that there are 7 qira'at or more, which are wahi, and others which are not wahi?
So this is the important distinction here is how scholars over the time thought about the readings. Later Muslim scholars thought about the readings as being wahi, as being revelation, or as being validated by the Prophet. The sense that we get from early scholars and early grammarians that they were not considered wahi or revelation. It's a consensus of the readers that they read this or that way. So for a Tabari, he had more. He had 20 plus, I think, readings. His book is lost, but he discusses that in his commentary. And many of the interesting part is when you start the progression, when you study the development of the readings, and you see that before Ibn Mujahid, many of the readings that Ibn Mujahid considered to be canonical or later on became canonical, they were rejected early on. And the best example of this is Hamza. The reading of Hamza Zayyat, for a long time, it was rejected even by Kufans. And you go to any of the early biographical dictionaries on Hamza and you read about his reading, people rejected it. They called it an innovation. And this is an established part of the literature. In Dhahabi, the historian, he discusses that in the biography of Hamza, and he says, yes, Muslim scholars rejected Dhahabi, they rejected Hamza, they hated his reading, they disliked it because of this and that. However, and Dhahabi was right here, the consensus now is to consider Hamza's reading valid or mutawatira in a sense. So it's important to know where we are historically. Are we before Tabari? Are we after Tabari? Are we post Ibn Mujahid or before Ibn Mujahid? Because Muslim scholars have different criteria. So during Tabari's time, probably no one was using Hamza in prayers. And Ibn Qutayba says, he has a very interesting remark about Hamza. Of course, he was criticizing him. He says, I'm amazed that Hamza reads one way but prays in another way, meaning that he's criticizing him for devising or creating this his reading. And he says that why doesn't he use it in prayer? And this is the criticism, is that you are trying to devise a new reading, but you are not using it in prayer, because probably you would know, or people would realize, that your reading is not considered divine, or your prayer will be invalid if you use it in prayers.